not mention of integrated education. So we got out the pen. We said, right, we've got to write something down here. We've got it fast, and we wrote down towards. We call it a culture of tolerance, promoting a culture of tolerance, and facilitating and encouraging integrated education and mixed housing. Those are our words. We wrote them down. They're in the Good Friday Agreement now, and they are law.
Yep.
And it is the Constitution of Northern Ireland. If we hadn't been there, the Women's Coalition, integrated education wouldn't have been mentioned in the Constitution of Northern Ireland. But it has been mentioned, it is there, still not enough's being done.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. And from there, obviously, the Good Friday Agreement changed so much. Like, it brought peace, relative peace to Northern Ireland. You went on then to become more involved in politics following the Good Friday Agreement?
Of course, then, after the Good Friday Agreement, there was obviously elections to the new Northern Ireland Assembly that was set up by the Good Friday Agreement. And I think it was 6 or 8 of us stood for election, and 2 of us got elected, myself and Monica McWilliams, to the first new Northern Ireland Assembly. And that was a shocker as well. And in fact, on the day after I was elected, Mo Molan phoned me up and said, "Do you want to be Deputy Speaker?" And I actually, and this is rare, I actually thought twice and thought, help, I don't know how government works. I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm in there. I don't know enough to be Deputy Speaker, they say. So I said, no. That's very rare for me.
And how did she take that?
She didn't, there was no Deputy Speakers at all.
Oh,
there was just then a Speaker only and no deputies. But then after, I can't remember how much time, maybe we were in for a year, and there was a vote of no confidence in the Speaker, so he couldn't take the chair. So they asked me to take the chair. And I'm telling you, that was definitely one of the most difficult experiences of my professional career, walking up to take the chair of the Assembly for the first time ever. And it was a very, very tough one. But I got through it. And I just kept saying to myself that what was happening on the floor of the Assembly, all the ugly words that were being thrown at each other across the Assembly, it was far better than what had been happening. Far better that it was words rather than
bullets. Yeah.
Exactly. So, as a result of that experience, when it came to an election for the deputy speakers, I put my hand up and I got elected as the deputy speaker in 2000, I think it was, and stayed as deputy speaker, and that was a very interesting career move too.
And when you were doing this, did you feel like this was part of history? Northern Ireland's never had ever a government where it's brought the communities together in the way that the Good Friday Agreement did. I know there was Sunningdale and there was attempts in 1970s and stuff like that, but did you feel like that I'm part of history here? This is groundbreaking, or was there too much kind of attrition going on to realise that?
Well, I suppose the best way to describe the feelings in that assembly. By the way, the Good Friday Agreement had done an awful lot, but within months of being elected, the Omagh bomb, and so that's a moment I'll never forget, and that's. I and some of my team from Bangor went down to Omagh to attend the funerals, as many as we could, and it was just obviously heart-wrenching, and that really I said intervened in the assembly afterwards, and I said we're really standing in the shadow of those people, and that's what I think I'll never forget, was that I was standing in the shadow of others who were I can't even explain it in words. What I was trying to do, what we were trying to do, was make things better, and something like the Omagh bomb just proved that we had to keep going.
Yeah.
But lots of people would say to me when I ended the political career, would miss politics. And I sort of said, well, it was challenging, it was important, it was all of those things, but enjoyable was never something that I could ever describe it as.
Yeah.
And the best way to understand it is every time the phone rang, I jumped. There was a nervous reaction to a phone ring because is it another atrocity? Is it another, all of that stuff? And you were just always on tenterhooks.
Yeah, it's I'm sure it was a difficult one. And then I think the Women's Coalition dissolved in, was it 2006? And what impact do you think that's had since? Do you think that women in politics, there's still that gap maybe from when the coalition dissolved? Or
Well, first of all, we set up in '96 and we dissolved in 2006. So it was quite a nice 10-year. We saw it as a 10-year project. And the 10-year project, the project was obviously peace building.
Yep.
And getting more women in politics. The first, I think we contribute to the achievement of, we're still not there yet, but we contributed to it. And here's another lovely example. My husband, who was working at the BBC still at the time, when Paisley Senior went down to meet Bertie Ahern for the first time in Dublin, he made a big speech. And I listened to the speech, and in a separate place from my husband, Paul, phoned to me and said, "Jane, you could have written that." And I said, I was thinking exactly the same thing. Anyone in the Women's Coalition could have written that Paisley speech.
Yep.
So dare I claim he was speaking our language?
Yeah.
So that's what we helped to achieve. I don't know whether the DUP would necessarily agree with me now, but definitely, obviously, we'd all come round to the right thinking. We didn't, so that's the peace building.
Yep.
We contributed to, but women in politics has still got a long way to go. There's no doubt that there are more women in politics now in Northern Ireland, and we've helped nudge that along.
Yep.
But it's still a long way to go. So job still to be done.
Contributed, but there's a lot of, I would agree as well. So when you left politics, the world of politics, well, to an extent, what did you move into? You moved into the European, or the Equality Commission?
Yes, Equality Commission. So that was 2006. Took up a bit of photography in the meantime. That's my hobby, my love. And put out a postcard business, set up a postcard business promoting a new image of Northern Ireland.
Brilliant.
So we're still keeping that idea.
Bit in line with what I'm looking to do.
Really? Well, the only thing was I discovered that I'm no good. I love the creative, but I'm no good at the business side and the selling and stuff. So I learned what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. Anyway, Quality Commission then, Deputy Chief there, and that was a very, very valuable years and important work. And then at the same time I started in Brussels as one of two representatives of the European Economic and Social Committee, which is the civic forum, if you like, of the European Union, the second chamber. We scrutinise European legislation. And I've been doing that now more than 10 years, and it has been a very, very... There's 350 of us who meet at least once a month in Brussels, scrutinising European legislation in an assembly type thing. And this sounds perfect. You can do what's called own initiative work. I put my hand up for my first opinion, which is like a rapporteur, and they agreed. The role of the European Union in the Northern Ireland peace process.
Right up your street.
Right up my street. So I wrote that as a rapporteur, and it was approved by the whole lot in 2008. Then I did a follow-up on it, on the role of the European Union in peace building in the world, and I'm now just been given a new one.
Brilliant.
Called The White Dove Way, and it's about a path of peace from Northern Ireland to Nicosia.
Oh, very good. It sounds really interesting.
And it's about the an EU-led global peace-building initiative modelled on the EU peace programme in Northern Ireland and stretching across the globe, and also using a bit of the type of Erasmus type what do you call publicity, and that's a huge thing that I'm realising is very important. And this is what I think is the irony of Brexit. The European Union doesn't blow its own trumpet loud enough. I mean, you look at Northern Ireland, and who gets all the praise for the peace in Northern Ireland? America, the Clintons, the high-profile stuff. And I'm not knocking them; they did great work. But Europe did the grassroots, embedded stuff, and gets no proper appreciation, and that's bad.
And do you think a lot of that is forgotten when, I don't think there was any real talk about the impact of Europe until afterwards in Northern Ireland after Brexit happened. It was all beforehand. You didn't hear, the EU did so well, like you said there, to bring about peace and to fund different projects.
Exactly. Now, I'm in Brussels now. I do complain day and daily about the lack of knowledge about what the good stuff, the positive stuff that the European Union does, and particularly in Northern Ireland. I mean, in the whole, by the way, I calmed down a wee bit over the years, but Brexit has brought out the very best in me. I'm back to the fighting and the campaigning. I'm out to block Brexit in Northern Ireland at least. Obviously to try and do something to make it stop, to get the UK not to come out, and that's the people's vote. And I'm as honorary president of the European movement now. We're promoting a people's vote to get a vote on the deal.
Yep.
If all else fails, I've got a petition calling for Northern Ireland to stay in the EU and in the UK. That has virtually been offered by Michel Barnier, by the EU 27, and we've said no to it. That's us getting our cake and eating it.
Yep.
It is, but it's not our cake, it's our bread and butter, and we deserve it.
Absolutely. And how do you feel? Obviously, we've got everything going on. I think today's 585 days since the Storming Assembly. That's sad. How's that being seen in Europe? I know you go to. Are they looking at that and saying, what are you guys doing, or what's going on over there?
Well, the only comparison, obviously, that shows a connection with Europe is we've just beaten the Belgian record. Belgium was the country that went the longest without a government, and now we've beaten the Belgian record. The strange thing is there's a wee bit of tongue-in-cheek humor, cynicism. We can all survive without. Why do we need them? Type thing, and it's an absolute disgrace. I actually think that Brexit is what it's all about. You can talk about the disagreements between the parties, but I really do feel that what has happened with Brexit is deep-seated change, and it's got to be appreciated that it's not good for Northern Ireland. And obviously Brussels has actually put that at centre stage now, being the fact that the Irish border is top of their priorities in the negotiations, and this must be fixed as far as they're concerned. And they're they're totally aware of the investment the European Union had in peace in Northern Ireland. So, they're protecting their investment, not just peace, but everything that they stood for and they stand for. And Barnier has been hugely involved in Northern Ireland affairs. And so, it's huge support from Brussels, from the European Union, for us here. And when I hear people saying, oh, Brussels is playing tough, or Brussels is doing this and that, the other, that's wrong. They're not. They care. They do care. And maybe they just need to get their message out there louder and clearer.
And it's a bit difficult. It leads into what you were saying there. Like, it's difficult to. I feel like people are lost in a few different ways in Northern Ireland. One, we don't have a local government, but two, we've nobody to fight for Northern Ireland. The British government aren't fighting for Northern Ireland the best interest in Northern Ireland in these EU negotiations. Like, what do you think is going